I would like to welcome you back to episode 2 of The Sent Ones. Thank you so much for joining us. Today's episode is going to be all about the rig. We're traveling across the country. We're doing the Great Commission. We're traveling essentially across North America, potentially into Central America. And we're sharing the gospel. We're going on a kind of a Christian pilgrimage. So we needed to select the right rig in order to do this. And the way the chips kind of fell into, how everything played out, this is the rig that we landed on. We investigated a number of different rigs, checked out van life stuff. We checked out truck and trailer combinations, fifth wheel combinations. And ultimately we settled on this 24-foot KZ Sport. It's a great little unit. It's older. It's 2002. We paired it up with a Dodge Ram 1500 with a 5.7 liter Hemi engine. The thing tows it no problem. It's just been such a fantastic vehicle. And so today's episode, I'd like to take you through the rig, give you the grand tour. Let's dive into it here. So before we dive into the inner workings of the rig and whatnot, I'm just going to go over briefly how much water, how much propane, and how much gas we carry if we're going into the bush for an extended period of time. This fifth wheel is kind of like a hybrid it's kind of like a really big overland vehicle. We've got this thing outfitted so that we can stay off grid, we can live off grid, we live out of the rig. We've got it set up for, being off grid for an extended period of time. I'll go through all those systems after. But if we're heading into the bush for starters, we're gonna carry 60 liters of water, just to try and minimize the amount of weight that we're carrying in the rig. Like, the rig is capable of carrying over 200 liters of water, but that extra weight you're carrying in the rig adds to your extra fuel costs and wear and tear on the vehicle. So if we're traveling, we're going to travel with usually 40 liters of water, but we can do 60 liters. Plus we carry 40 liters of gas, and that's to run the generator, and plus we also carry 70 pounds of propane, and you'll see why in a few minutes. Also, in the interior cab of the truck itself, we carry a number of items for roadside assistance in the event that we break down or whatever. We've got a truck multimeter. I've got a first aid kit. We've got some additional supplies, some warm gear. Bear spray, road flares, things of that nature, cargo straps, whatever you might need if you're stranded at the side of the road kind of thing. The top of the truck houses a Yakima roof rack, which carries our seasonal items, things that we don't really need to get to that often. Cold weather gear, things of that nature, that if we need to get to it, we'll get to it. But we're trying our best to stay in the warm climates as we go. But we do run into some cold climate temperatures. We're in the Ozarks right now, and the temperatures dropped down to about 3 degrees Celsius the other day, which is pretty chilly. I think that's like 39 degrees Fahrenheit. But yeah, that's where we keep all our cold weather gear and things that we don't need to get to very often. Okay, before I take you for a tour through the interior of the vehicle, we'll do a quick walk around and go through some of the compartments, check out what we keep on the exterior of the vehicle. In the front compartment, that's our propane housing unit, where we keep 40 pounds of propane up front. We also keep an additional 20-pound tank in case we want to stay off grid for an extended period of time. And plus we also keep that additional 10-pound propane tank just for cooking and things of that nature. But that gives us ample propane for heating, for cooking. Like, most of the rig runs off of propane as well as electricity. So our fridge, our stove, our cooktop, our hot water tank, it's all capable of running off propane. So we might as well keep as much propane on us as we can. Also, in this front compartment up here, we keep 2 extension cords, a bike rack, and a few jugs for shuttling gray water if need be. It's just easier to move 60 liters of gray water rather than breaking down and moving the entire rig, you know what I mean? We'll call this area here side compartment 1. This is one half of the garage, what we call the garage. This is the area where I keep all my tools. There's ropes, my tool bag. I got a chainsaw back there, multiple axes, knives, shovels, like anything we need for off-grid and bushcraft living. There's also a few mechanical compartments. Plus we have a hose for, you want to wash off your bike or something outside. That just an exterior hose, kind of like a mudroom hose, works that way. On the other side of the rig, this is just where we keep our, car cleaning items. I got a socket set, an extension cord. We got the drain hoses for the gray tank. Side note, we don't have a black tank on board. I'll talk more about that later. Our winches and, things for taking in and out the jacks and in and out the slide out, things of that nature. Around the back of the rig, we've got a Swagman bike rack, which houses Carmen's e-bike and my mountain bike. Now, when it comes to solar power, we explored a number of different options in what we were going to do as far as solar energy. Ultimately, to make a long story short, we settled on the Jackery Explorer 1500 battery tank with 2 100-watt Solar Saga panels. And I'll tell you what the big advantage of having a portable solar unit is that your rig doesn't have to be positioned in the sun all the time. So right here is a perfect scenario where we've got the battery bank out, it's sitting in the sun and it's charging, but the rig itself does not need to be out in the sun. So when you're positioning your rig, you can find a nice shady area to help keep the rig cool. We've got 2 cats on board that we have to think about all the time. While your solar panels can be out in the blazing sun and charging no problem, right? So that's why we decided to go with the Jackery as opposed to a unit that a rooftop mounted unit. So as you step inside the rig, you immediately notice that it's been updated. The majority of the upgrades have just been cosmetic upgrades, I guess. We didn't do, I guess to some it would seem like a full-on renovation. It was more just cosmetic upgrades. The unit was very, very dated. As I said, it's a 2002 model, and nothing had been changed or modified or upgraded. Everything was original. So we put a little bit of paint and a little bit of lipstick. Carmen had sewn some new cushions, painted the cabinets, changed out some hardware, things of that nature. Nothing really major. Ripped out the carpet. They had this old green, ugly carpet in there that had to go. Neither of us are a fan of carpet, and we've never, anywhere we've lived that had carpet, we ripped it out immediately and replaced it with something a little bit more hygienic, just because we have 2 cats and the dust and dander and hair just gets trapped in the carpet. So long story short, it's gotta go. So in this area here, there used to be just a futon, like a couch futon kind of thing, a couch that would convert to a bed sleeping area. And it was pretty old and dingy, and we knew that we weren't really going to use it for that anyway. So long story short, we ripped the futon out and we converted this space. This is the slide out, actually. And we converted this space to a little bit more multifunctional. So we added a tabletop in there. We needed a spot to house where the litter was going to go for the cats. We needed a place to put the Berkey water filter, which is an off-grid water filtration system, which I highly recommend, by the way. It's just a gravity-fed system, doesn't require any mechanics or electricity or nothing. Like, it's just a super simple filter. Should do a whole video just on the Berkey. But anyways, also in this area, we needed a place for all of our camera gear, so we kind of built this little custom rack to clip all of our camera gear onto it. A place to keep the cat food and some other equipment, backpacks. We also, this is not something you see in a typical 24-foot fifth wheel, but we also carry a washing machine, which might seem kind of crazy, but we can run this washing machine totally off-grid off of the Jackery, which is awesome. Carmen's test ran it a bunch of times. It runs really good for if we're really far out back, or staying off-grid for an extended period of time, or we just don't have access to a laundromat that's nearby. So yeah, this area, that's what we did with this area to make it a lot more multifunctional. Also a place for hanging fruits and vegetables, things like that. Just to kind of. It was the closet and the space that we needed to kind of house all the extra odds and sods that didn't have a cabinet for it. We added a few other things to increase the off-grid capability of the unit. I'll just talk about a couple of those things briefly. Number one, the Cubic Mini wood stove. This is an actual wood-burning stove. It's cast iron. It's as legit as any wood-burning stove, regular size, that you're going to find in a home. It's just a mini version, and it's called the Cubic Mini. This is the Grizzly version. It's a little bit bigger than the Cubic Mini. There's two different kinds. This is the Grizzly. It's just a little bit bigger, and we've had nights in here where it's dropped down to as cold as -20, and it's managed to keep us plenty warm throughout the night, because the walls in this fifth wheel are really, there is some insulation, but it's really not that great. And when it's -20, it is cold, but the Cubic Mini kept us going through the whole night. We also have an off-grid compost toilet. As I mentioned earlier, we don't have a black tank. We only have a gray tank. And this also allows us to stay off-grid longer. So I'm not going to get into the mechanics of the number one and the two and how it all works. If you want to do some research on it, check out Nature's Head composting toilets. I highly recommend them if you're going to be, staying off-grid for a sufficient amount of time, and you want the capability of staying off-grid longer. Highly recommend the Nature's Head compost toilet. And then over to the right of the toilet is our 6-foot jacuzzi soaker tub. Just kidding. Carmen and I were super spoiled when we lived in the house. We had a 6-foot soaker tub that Carmen found us online for a smoking deal. When we renovated the bathroom upstairs, we installed it, and it was just such a glorious thing to have. And our bathtub in the fifth wheel is not nearly as big and deep and luxurious, but we still love it, and it does the trick. It's as good as it's gonna get for this size of living. As part of the renovation upgrades, we switched out the dining table and added just a tiny little prep table. We made a bigger prep table. You can never have too much counter space. That's one thing you learn real fast in small space living, and we learned the same thing on the boat. You run out of counter space so fast. So we upgraded the tables. Now makes things a little bit easier for food prep and for doing dishes, things of that nature. So another thing that we learned from living on the boat was that we love a walk-around bed, meaning like each person can have their own side of the bed and they don't have to climb over another person to get into bed. That gets old so fast. When in living on the boat, we had that style of bed for our guests. For 1 or 2 nights, it's not a big deal, but if you're sleeping in that arrangement full time, it gets real old. And also, it's a permanent bed. Like, we even went and bought a proper mattress, pillow top mattress. We got rid of whichever mattress came with the unit, and it's not the kind of thing that, you know, you have to fold up and put away. Like people that live in van life, I understand why they do it and everything else, but for us, as we get older in life, that's one thing that we just didn't want to compromise on. I don't want to be folding up a bed every day and tucking it away and converting it into a seating quarters, whatever. So we just want a stationary bed. And even our side tables are custom. That's not really a table, obviously. These are just, you get a painter's bucket and those things. You see a whole bunch of tools. We just cut it in half, put half on Carmen's side, half on my side, and that houses all the things you might need in the middle of the night. Your flashlights, your earplugs. We got cat clippers in there. We got scissors, Kleenex, whatever you could think of, right? All the things that would go in your night side table. On either side of the bed, we each have a large wardrobe plus a small overhead compartment for clothes storage, whatever. Also, we don't have a whole lot of wall space. I mean, living in a fifth wheel camper, wall space is at a premium for art and things of that nature. So, if it's hanging on the wall, it's probably either extremely sentimental or it's multifunctional. Like I've got a bushcraft saw that a good buddy of mine made, DJ. Shout out to DJ, love you, brother. He makes these saws at Bare Essentials. Also, I made this little cutting board here. It's shaped like an axe or whatever, but we use it as a serving tray, a cutting board kind of thing. And like I said, the rest of the stuff, it's really just sentimental items that we could not bear to part with. So we are totally equipped and capable of cooking inside the rig. However, there are some situations where you just like to cook outside, whether it be because it's 1,000 degrees and you don't want to have a cooktop propane stove going inside the unit, making it even hotter. There's a number of reasons why sometimes you just like to cook outside. It's nice to just cook outside. And we have a few different options for cooking outside. I'm just going to go over some of those options briefly. We have a GSI outdoor stove, a 2-burner cooktop, which is propane operated. We also carry just a small propane barbecue grill. On top of that, if we're really, really off grid, we also keep some cast iron cooking appliances and a tripod. If we're going to do some open fire cooking, I also keep a great, cooktop grill just for open fire cooking. It's really, really nice. It's such a nice option to be able to cook on an open fire. I cannot stress that enough. It really is. It takes things to the next level. It's one thing to cook with a propane stove or cooktop or whatever outside while you're camping, but to be able to cook over an open fire, there really is nothing like it. So that officially concludes the tour of the Mad Max Expedition vehicle. As of this moment in time, we still don't have an official route planned out. And I don't know where this rig will take us, but I do know one thing for sure. I want to go there with this woman right here. And I'll put all my faith in God that the Spirit will lead us, protect us, and help us win souls for the one true living God, Yeshua HaMashiach, Jesus the Messiah. And in the mighty name of Jesus, I pray that this video finds you well, and we send you all our love.
When you first told me your name, I didn't hear a word you said, but it was written all over my face. Should've known it was you I would love until the end. Ooh, ooh. When you made it down the aisle, every moment stole my breath. Bet you could see it in my smile. Should've known it was you I would love until the end. I don't know where this road leads. All I know is I wanna go with you in a life where there's no sure things. I am sure I wanna live it with you. Ooh. if you look into my eyes. When our time down here is spent, it's in every single line. Hope you know it was you that I loved until the end. Ooh.